Hello, my dear apprentices. This is your coach, Mr. Magno, with another wonderful video. In this video, we are going to add fractions with unlike denominators by converting those unlike denominators into like denominators. Here we go, my friends. So, convert fractions with unlike units. Multiply fractions by opposite denominators. For example, in 1a, 5 is the opposite of 3. That's the denominator that is the opposite of 3. And you can see it right here on, on this particular problem. It's right here. 5 is the opposite of 3. Okay, and as you can see, I set up already what my job is to do. So let's do that. I already separated this fraction right here and these fractions, which are the two fractions that we're going to convert into fractions with like denominators. Remember, we're not changing the value of the fraction. We're finding equivalent fractions. Let's get to that. So again, the opposite denominator of 5 is 3. So we're going to multiply that number, uh, the 3/5 times 3. And remember, what you do to the top, you do to the bottom. And also, this means that 3 over 3 equals 1, and any number multiplied by 1 equals the same number. Remember, it doesn't change the value of the fraction. So 3 times 3 equals 9, and 5 times 3 equals 15. All right, that's our first equivalent fraction. So let's write it down. 9 15. Okay, next one is, this is going to be multiplied by the opposite denominator. The opposite denominator of 3, the opposite denominator of 3 is 5, as you can see on the screen. So now let's multiply 1/3 by the opposite denominator, which is 5. Okay, and now when we do the math, 1 times 5 equals 5, and 3 times 5 equals 15. Now, as you can see, we have like denominators, which is 15, and the numerator is 5. So what is 9 plus 5? That equals 14. And the denominator stays the same. Now, let's do one that is a little more complicated. We have now three fractions that we need to add. That's going to be these three. And as you can see, they all have a common different denominator. However, they still need to be converted into fractions that have the same denominator. So we're going to do that, but I'm going to just set this up right now. So the one that's going to be for the 2/5, the equivalent fractions for 2/5, and this will be the equivalent fraction for 1/4, and the next one will be the equivalent fraction for 1/10. Okay, and so we're going to add this, and this should equal, we should be able to find the answer for this addition. So here's what we need to do. In this case, we have to do multiples of each of the denominators. So let's make multiples of 5s. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, we're gonna stop right there. And we're gonna now create multiples of 4s. Okay, multiples of 4s. So multiples of 4s is just that starting the base number is the 4, and then you double it. You add 4 every time you add 4. So that's 8. And then we have 12. The next one is 16. 16 plus 4 equals 20. And we're gonna stop right there. Now we're gonna do the multiples of 10. So 10 begins with 10, and 10 plus 10 equals 20, and 20 plus 10 equals 30, and so forth and so on. And now we have 40. Now here is what you need to do. Once you have the multiples, you're going to look to see which of these groups have a number that they all have. And usually it's the number that is the highest. So let's look at this. A number that has, this one has a 10, And this one has a 10, right? But the 4 doesn't have a 10. So now this one has a 20. Uh, the multiples of 4 has a 20. And the multiples of 10 has a 20. That means that that is an indicator that we need to multiply each number by a fraction that will make it equal 20. For example, if I look at 5, well, 5 times 4, so I'm going to multiply 4 that number times 4. Why? Because that's going to give me a denominator that is 20. Okay, so there's my denominator. The 4, obviously, I'm going to multiply by 5, which that will give me a denominator of 20. And the 10, I'm going to multiply by 2 because if you think about it, 10 times 2 equals 20. So now I can see all of my fractions have the same denominator. All I got to do is multiply the numerator now. 2 times 4 equals 8. 1 times, okay, this one we need to write the 5 above. So 1 times 5 equals 5. And this one is 1 times 2 equals 2. There you have it, my friends. So now we know that 2/5 is now, the equivalent fraction for that number is 8 20ths. Okay. The equivalent fraction for 1/4 is now 5 20ths. The equivalent fraction for 1/10 is now 2, well, 2 20ths. Okay. When you add this up again, because they're like denominators, so the answer has to have the same denominator as the um, um, parts that were added. So now we can add the 5 plus 2 equals 7. 7 plus 8 equals 15. And the answer is going to be 15 20ths. And this is how you solve problems with numbers that have more than two fractions to add. My friends, watch the video again and make sure you are paying attention so you understand what you need to do. Signing out, your coach, Mr. Magno, that wishes you to become a math wizard.